That's exactly what we're looking into. And it does seem that some people are off the chart with this.
What is intuition?
So the way I define it is a little different from some other people, right? So I'm not talking about a magical sixth sense, right? Tapping into the universe or the ether, anything spiritual necessarily or magical like that. So I define it fairly simply as the productive use of unconscious information for better decisions and actions.
Unconscious information. That's like stuff that I notice, but I don't notice that I notice. If is that
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
unconscious information?
Yeah, so our brain, so right now you're sitting here and your brain's processing a ton of things. It's processing, but you're focusing attention on me, hopefully my face, my voice. But you're not processing, the air conditioning or the temperature where you are, maybe the way your back or leg feels in the chair. So there's a whole lot of things going on in the background. And so people talk about consciousness like an iceberg. So we're only aware of the very tip sticking out of the water, and most of what your brain's processing, all the different information, what you're seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, all that stuff you're not conscious of, but your brain is still processing it. So the information is still there in your brain. You're just not aware of it.
How do you tap into this? Like, how do you use this kind of for your advantage?
The first thing is self awareness, and that really is trying to be aware of your emotional state. So the rule there is that we shouldn't practice intuition if we're feeling anxious or depressed, or any strong emotion, right? Even positive, you've just fallen in love, you've just won the lottery, whatever it might be. These strong positive emotions are going to sort of flood out the subtle feelings of intuition as well. And that's something humans are not very good at that. It's called arousal misattribution. So we often get confused about where a signal is coming from. So a neat story on this is one of my many years, over 10 years ago now, before I got married, I went on a first date rock climbing, right? And we were rock climbing, indoor climbing gym. It was amazing chemistry. We were all pumped up. Oh, amazing. Turns out didn't work so well. We weren't suited to each other. But on that first date, it felt amazing, right? And that, I realized a couple of years later, was this arousal misattribution. So when you're rock climbing, right, you got adrenaline, you're high up off the ground, you're falling, swinging back in, right? You're feeling all this, heart rate's high. And humans are just lousy at knowing where these signals come from. So what happens is you think you're feeling this way because of the other person, and you're not at all. You're feeling it because of the rock climbing.
So why, when you look at your research, right? Like, why are some people good at it? Why are some people not good at it?
Yeah, great question. So this is something we don't have the full answer for this yet. I think it has something to do with that internal perception, that fancy word interoception. So I think some people have stronger emotional responses and they're more sensitive to their internal state. So in other words, the same thing might be happening in their body, but some people then go, whoa, I'm feeling this heavy feeling, this sinking feeling in my gut. I don't trust this person. Someone else, their body's still responding, but they have no idea. They just don't feel it.
Who's better, men or women?
Oh, great question. Yeah, people love asking this. So it turns out when you ask people how intuitive are you, self-reporting, women report being more intuitive and report that they think they're better at making intuition. They use it more often. They also score much higher on what's called magical thinking. This is sort of the believing in magic, but also being more spiritual and a whole range of other things. Generally speaking, men report being more rational and being more logical in their decision making. Here's the caveat, except when it comes to sport and gambling. So when it comes to gambling around sport, all of a sudden in that narrow topic, on average again, men report all of a sudden doing very superstitious and magical thinking. They cross their fingers, they cross their legs, they wish this and wish that, their team's going to win. So what we want to do next is start testing people, men and women, in our lab-based measurements to try and get a more accurate understanding of is one sex or one gender better, are different races better, and why? Because sort of intuition is also more respected or less respected in different cultures. Often in Asian style cultures, it is more respected and people look up to intuition and respect it more, generally speaking, than in Western cultures. So that's something interesting as well.
Have you ever seen somebody that was like an outlier and the savant of intuition?
Funnily enough, we've just launched this brand new experiment. So it's a big study through generally big donation to the university, philanthropy. I can't go into the details yet because it's just beginning, but that's exactly what we're looking into. And it does seem that some people are off the chart with this. Now, we don't really understand why or how, what's going on yet, but there does seem to be exactly what you said, Nick. Like, so these outlier people that are just really good at this.
Then I would imagine the opposite is true, though, too, that there's also people who are just absolutely terrible at it.
Yeah. So when we give people questionnaires, some people will say, I feel no intuition. I make all my decisions very rationally, logically, pros and cons list. When we get them into the lab and we test them in our objective, reliable, lab-based measure for intuition, they don't really get a boost for these unconscious positive or negative images. They just don't seem to be able to utilize that information.
So this is, we're looking at a test. I'm just kind of explaining for the audience potentially. And if it's like crap, then we'll just completely edit it out. But this is just a random intuition test. So is there coffee or tea in this cup? My guess is that there's coffee. It's coffee. Is there anything that you notice about this, or is this just kind of a garbage test and you're just...
it's interesting, right? Because it is, I think it could be useful and interesting if you force yourself to make fairly rapid and quick decisions. So people often talk about the gut response being like a rapid thing. I feel it straight away. So the idea with this, the logic I would say, I don't know if whoever designed it had the same logic, but I would say, so there was a black and white picture and it was a cup, with some liquid in it, and it was dark, but you couldn't tell really whether it was tea or coffee. It could be either with milk in it, right? So it's kind of cloudy. And so if you try and answer very quickly, the idea is your brain is processing all the different cues in this picture, and maybe there's something about the nature. Coffee is more often poured into that kind of shaped cup. Maybe coffee is slightly darker on average than tea. And there's all these variables that you may not logically and consciously be aware of. But the idea is your brain is processing all that in the background. And so you go, what's the answer? Tea or coffee? Oh, I'm feeling coffee. So it's like the example of going into the cafe, right? You're just trying to tap into all the extra information that your brain is processing. So yeah, I think it's an interesting way to practice intuition and keep track of it with these kind of ambiguous images.
So I look at the next one, lime or lemon. That looks like a lemon to me. Oh, it's a lemon.
There you go. Ding. Right, so it's so I would say that, yeah, on average, from my memory of limes is they're slightly rounder and maybe a little bit smaller. Right? They're not as pointy. But here's the question, Nick. Did you think that? Did you go, I think limes are smaller, therefore I'm going to say lemon? Or did you just say lemon without thinking about it?
I picked lemon because I'm a former bartender, and the thing on the screen points down a little bit. Like there's this nub on the lemon that didn't look like a lime to me. I was like, oh, I think that's a lemon.
And did you consciously think that thought? Or are you unsure? How did you make the decision?
It just popped into my head, lemon, and I went with it.
There you go. So that sounds like intuition, right? So your brain is processing the size, the potential shape, that the nubby bit on the end of the lemon is probably pointier than it would be on a lime. But you didn't take 10 seconds to think through the logic and go, oh, it's probably a 70% probability it's a lemon. Or you didn't think any of that, right? You just go, lemon.
All right, let's do a couple more.
I like it, yeah.
What number is this? How the hell? That's a complete guess. 3, right? Like, what number do you think he's thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go 8. Oh, 5.
That's what I was thinking, 8, because I wouldn't think that you would be thinking that hard if it was just a 5.
Yeah, I can't think of what the reasoning would be behind that one. I can't think of any information or cues that might be in the image that would predict one number over another, right?
This one's kind of cat or dog person. Dog. Oh, it's a dog.
There you go. Interesting. I mean, it's 50-50, so you could just do this randomly and you would still probably get actually no, the number wasn't 50-50, but anyway. Why did you say dog? I'm curious.
Clean cut. Seemed clean cut.
Interesting.
And then the shirt for some reason told me like, oh, that's seems like the kind of shirt that a dog person would wear, not necessarily a cat person.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe from all your experience of meeting cat and dog people, maybe the influence of a lot of TV shows and films, right? So that's an interesting. We didn't mention this before, but I mean, there's a lot of talk about AI at the moment, right? AI, if you feed junk into an AI system, artificial intelligence, you get junk out. And it's similar with intuition. If you train your intuition on false data, if I could show you 100 hours of TV shows with, I don't know, all the people that like dogs have blonde hair or something, and your brain would start to learn the association between blonde hair and dogs or something like that. But that's not represented in reality. It's not real. I've sort of made that a bias in the data. So we need to be careful about what we train our intuition, the learning behind intuition on, right? So if you train it on junk, your intuition will be biased. If you train it on biased stuff from TV or film from 50 years ago, then you're going to carry those biases from 50 years ago into your intuition now. That could be race or gender bias. It could be a bunch of different things, age or something else, right? So that's just an interesting caveat to throw out there in terms of bias, because intuition can be biased if it's trained on biased information.
My guess would be day because you can see the clouds.
Yeah, it looks like day. That's a pretty easy one. But again, I think this is an interesting test, right? Because if you force people to react quickly, like I said, you don't give them a chance to consciously think through the logic. So let's say they've got to respond in 1 second or less. Then it's more intuitive. Then it's more relying on unconscious and feeling, because you don't give people a chance to logically go, looks like a blue sky, looks like clouds, therefore it must be day, but the light, da-da-da-da.
So you got to do it faster.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. One. Yeah, when you get people to make these choices quickly.
Yellow.
Oh, beige, skin color.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Oh. Which one is a horse? That one. One. Oh, that was right.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. What? Right. So yeah, this is
just guessing, right?
This is guessing, like 3 cards and where's the bear on the card. Yeah.
Oh, how are you supposed to know what's the date? That's just guessing, right?
There's no cues in that environment that will give away the answer, I don't think. Yeah.
27. Oh.
18, wow.
Okay. Okay.
Really? I don't know. Yeah. Well,
I don't know about that one. Red. Okay, I'm going to stop that. Like, it's just, it was interesting, like the discussion that we had around it, but It seems that the test that I found online is kind of just, does it seem to be tied to intelligence?
Great question. I've never seen really good data to support that one way or another. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably limited relationship there, because I think it's more to do with that internal perception, interoception, and emotion. And so just like happiness is not that well correlated with intelligence, really, especially at the outlier end, the high end. I don't think intuition will be that well correlated with the high end of intelligence. Again, I could be wrong, but my prediction will be you probably see some relationship there, but I don't think it'll be that strong.